Hello everyone, welcome to some more Turing Machine. We're going to be playing this one today, hard difficulty, but still standard rules. The code to play along with me is in the chat, but also should be in the description of the video. And I just want to warn you ahead of time, I'm a little sleepy, like I was when I recorded the first video. So I may miss some fairly obvious deductions here. I'll see what I can do, but you know, do forgive me. It's a lot harder doing this under the pressure of recording it than it is like, I don't know, casually chatting it over with a friend. But I don't know. I don't really care if you forgive me. Take that. So, okay. Anyway, if you want to play along, you know, on your own, it's your job to pause before I start looking at stuff. I guess if you want just in the comments, because like you can barely read all these. If you're not actually going to play the game, but you want to see if you can verify anything just from the verifiers without asking any questions, here's what they all are. So now you can see them all. This, I don't know. Can you read that? I can't, but other people have better eyes than me, so maybe you could. Anyway, so I'm going to get started here. What do I have? Number of ones? Well, there can't be 3 of them. There can't even be 2, because then this would be determined as more odds than evens. There's some number less than 3. And the sum of all the numbers is either divisible by 3 or 4 or 5. Perhaps multiple of them, although it's hard to have them all add up to 12. But we could have like 255, right? Maybe. Anyway, but that's, we can't tell that. So, okay, the first thing to do is to note that there's at most 1 1 and report that under A. Because otherwise this would be determined. I mean, I guess, know, like, if there's a sequence of 3 numbers, then there can't be any 1s. I guess. Because if that were the case, we would know that there were more odds than evens, and we wouldn't need B. That doesn't let me eliminate anything out of C or A, but it does let me kind of say there's a bit less likely to be 3 in order than there usually are. And already that's like sort of rare, right? Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything else obvious to deduce here. I'm sure there's something. No sequence of numbers in ascending or descending order. So that could be 135 or 531. But it could also be like 114, right? So it's not like if this were true, we would know there were more odds than evens. So it still could be that there's no sequence at all. Well, let's start digging around in D and E, shall we? Could it be the case, out of curiosity, that the numbers do add up to 12? It would be tough. We would need a 2 and 2 5s. This would say 0. This would say odds. Should say no ones. I don't think we could uniquely determine it in that case, right? Because adding up to 6 is also possible. Or indeed even 9. So probably we can't... I don't know, whatever. So I said I wanted to ask D and E. Let's make sure I have just one number below 2, below 3. So like 2, 3, 4. That's divisible by 3. So we're testing the left of E and the left of D. And let's actually ask 2, 5, 3. So that we can check with C and say, is there no sequence at all? Because that's the most likely outcome, and it would be helpful to know that. So here we go. We're writing clues based on asking 2, 5, 3. We asked D and got an X. Okay. Actually, it's probably not the most likely. A sequence of 2 numbers is probably most likely. I knew that, but then forgot. C said X. So we can say 1 to 2 sequence. Oh, whoops. No, that's D. I'm so stupid. I forgot which one. Like I told you, I'm tired. We were asking D what's going on, and it gave us an X. And if I look in the test, yeah, I only have verified D. Okay. So it's not the case. It's not the case that the smallest number, that blue is less than 3. Or it's not the case that this verifier cares about that. Again, it still could be true. So according to D, not blue less than 3. Or let's actually phrase this another way. Get out of here. Not blue is less than 3. Some color, which isn't blue, is less than 3. So it's now impossible to have like 1, 5, 5, for example. Okay. Now let's ask... Well, except I feel like C isn't actually the one I want, but I have to, right? Let's ask E. Is it true... Oh, yeah. Is it true that the sum is divisible by 5? That's pretty unlikely, isn't it? I had carefully constructed one that was divisible by a more reasonable number, but I changed it at the last minute to improve C, and I forgot I was worsening E. I can still ask E and get some information. Yes! Ooh! Okay, a lucky hit. So, E then is testing that it's a multiple of 5. It can't be testing anything else because it's not... 10 isn't a multiple of 4 or 3. Multiple of 10. Wow. I mean, in some sense, that's not like a huge shock. The average value of 3 numbers is 3 each. So, like, that's pretty close to 10. 10 is about the average. So it's not shocking that you get one that's exactly 10. And it doesn't have to be 10, right? Oops, I actually wrote 10 on my note sheet, didn't I? It's a multiple of 5, of course. It could be 5. It can't be 15. Because then we wouldn't have a number less than 3. But 5 is possible. Probably the sum is 10, but it could be 5. Very unlikely. Okay, and last up, I think I do still have to query C, even though it kind of sucks. Oh, no, it's great. We're getting lucky today. Because C says you're right. There's no order at all. No ascending or descending sequence. So that's a very productive round. We got rather lucky there. Okay. Well, can we do any more deductions? We solved E and C by dumb luck. And A, B, and D, we can narrow down completely just by asking the right questions this round. So, worst case, we're at 2 rounds, 6 questions, which is okay for a hard 5 verifiers, I think. We want a number other than blue to be the lowest in our query, or to be below 3. And then I think we want to ask about parity, and lastly, we want to check the number of ones. So let's try, like... Oh, hang on. Remember... This is important. We know the sum is divisible by 5. That makes a big difference here. Hang on, why did I conclude there couldn't be 2 ones? That seems totally possible, doesn't it? No, because then this would be redundant. Got it. Okay, whew. So... in order for the sum to be 5, we would need a 1, a 2, and a 2. So that seems unlikely. But it's not impossible. For the sum to be 10, there's a lot of ways we could get there, probably. Oh, and also, if it were 1, 2, 2, yellow would have to be the 1, because otherwise... there would be a sequence. No, hang on. 1, 2, 2 is impossible. Because then there would be a sequence. No matter where the 1 is, it's next to one of the 2's. And so those are either an ascending or descending sequence, depending on what order they're in relative to each other. But we know there is no sequence that's ascending or descending. So we can't have 1, 2, 2. And we can't have 1, 1, 3, so there's no way to make the sum total 5. Or 15. So the sum definitely totals exactly 10. Okay. Good. We're getting somewhere. So if one of the numbers is 2 or less... and the total is 10, the other 2 numbers have to add to at least 8. 8 or 9. That's difficult, right? Like, it would have to be 2, 4, 4. or 235, or 145. So 244 is 3 evens. 135 is no evens. And 145 is 1 even. Okay. So if I were told there is a 1, how would that help me? Well, if I were told there were a 1, wouldn't it be... I think something would become redundant if I knew that. Well, not quite. If I were told a 1 exists, then I don't think D could be talking about yellow. Because I would know that the 1 would have to be yellow, and then from that I could already tell you there's no sequence. Right? So from just A, D, and E, I could deduce that we must have 1, 4, and 5 with the 1 in the middle. And then C would be giving me no information. The fact that they're unordered would be already known to me. So if I were told there's a 1, yeah, there can't be 2 1s. So whichever... There can't even be 2 numbers less than 3. Ah! That, I guess, tells us... Since we know that D tells us it's not looking at blue, blue can't be less than 3. That wasn't true before, because there could have been multiple numbers less than 3. But now there's only 1. Because we can't add to 10 otherwise. Actually, am I right about this? Well, I am right about this. This is what blue... But I was saying that with D, E, and A, if there were a single 1, I could already deduce that there's no sequence. But didn't I use the fact that there's no sequence to determine that the sum can't be 5? So if I were told there's a 1... and the total were 5, and this, like, told me what one of the ones was, then I don't think I could deduce that there's no order from C. Because it could be that the code is 122, or, well, sure, something like that. Okay, so I guess the idea I had that a single 1 would tell me it's not yellow, because that would lead to redundancy, is not necessarily true. Okay. Interesting. So I don't think we can solve the puzzle yet. Let's prepare a question that can trigger the unknown stuff in each of these. For B, doesn't matter. For A, we just have to not put in 2 1s. For D, we need either purple or yellow less than 3. Let's make yellow 1 and blue 4. And I think this is good enough that we can now ask whichever verifier we want, and it'll tell us everything it knows. Also, as it happens, it it has a sum of 10, so it could conceivably even be the right answer, I think. No, this couldn't be because of C. But it doesn't matter. I'm not asking C. I'm just asking A, B, and D to tell me everything they know. So I actually want to know how many ones there are first. There are no ones. Oh, let's note my question was 451. No ones. This was asking A. Fine. Given that there are no ones, what does that tell me? Well, first of all, it tells me that. Oops. All the numbers are at least 2, so definitely it sums to 10, but we knew that already. But now, the fact that there's no 1, and the sum is divisible by 5, this now tells us the sum is 10. Does that help somehow? I don't know. Well, whichever number is less than 3 is now definitely 2. Because there are no ones. And there can only be 1 2. Right? Because otherwise you would have a total of 4, and the third digit would have to be 6 to get us up to 10. So we know there's exactly 1 2. Which I think means neither yellow or purple can be 3. Because if they were, the other one of those would have to be a 2, and there would be a sequence. Could purple be 3? Sorry, blue be 3? Just barely. Yellow could be 5, and purple could be 2. I don't think that breaks any of the rules we have yet. But if purple were 3, there would be only one solution, so that's worth noting. Could purple be 4? Could be like 4 4 2. Oh, interesting. Look at, if we make, there's some parity issues now, right? The combined parity of all these numbers must be even. Because we know they add to 10, right? And that's even. So, like, if blue were 4, we would need the other two numbers to have the same parity. They would have to be 4 and 2. That all seems okay. If blue were 3, the other two numbers would have... If blue were 3 or 5, the other two numbers would have to have different parity from each other. So, weirdly, there are either 3 even numbers or 1 even number. I guess it's not that weird. That's just a way of saying the sum is even. If purple or yellow is 4, then the code has to have 2 4s and a 2. I really just verified with A so far? Yeah, okay. If I queried D and found out that yellow were the small one, it would be a 2. And then we would need blue to be 4 and purple to be 4. In order to avoid all of the other... In order to have the total be 10 and there be no sequences, right? If yellow were less than 2, or were the 2, we could either have 3 2 5 or 4 2 4, and only one of those is allowed. So wouldn't that make this redundant? I haven't figured out yet what B says. But given what I know about all of these, I already know what E and A and C are telling me. If I also knew that D were telling me that yellow is less than 3, then I could uniquely determine the code without referring to parity. So I don't think that's possible. Yellow can't be less than 3, because then I wouldn't need verifier B. So I think that means that purple is less than 3. Right? Now, for this, I need the other two to add up to 7. Oh, this is impossible. No, to add up to 8. Whew, it's possible. So if we amend this to say, actually, purple is 2. We need either these to both be 4, or for them to be 3 and 5. In either case, I believe I have a unique solution, right? So I don't think I can do any better than ask B what the parity is, because I can't solve it without the parity. And that's the only question left that I can ask. Okay. The parity is... There are more evens than odds. So I asked B, and I got a yes. No, this is more odds than evens, you dummy. So from that, I can say it can't be 4 4 2. It has to be 3 5 2. How did I conclude none of these can be 3? I guess because this is 2 and that would be a sequence. So the answer is 3 5 2. Let's key that bad boy in, I guess. And if I'm wrong, well, tough shit. 352. This is the correct code. Great. What do you think, machine? How did I do? I got yes, no, yes, and then no, yes. Yes, no, yes. No, yes, run A and B. For a change, I queried all 5 verifiers exactly once. That doesn't happen too often. Did I beat the machine? You bet I did. It took 3 rounds and 7 questions. Okay, yeah, pretty cool. I feel like I had a pretty lucky round 1. And I'm glad I realized what was going on with D without having to ask it again. After just testing A, I think, knowing there were no 1s. So I don't think I knew before I tested A. For some reason, the fact that there could have been a 1 was maybe making it hard for me to tell what D was saying. I don't remember why, but apparently it would have. Something to do with sequences, probably. Anyway, that's another game of Turing Machine. As always, let me know how you did. If you think I could have done something better. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.